In today's episode of Self-Defense Sunday, I want to talk about self-defense strategies concerning teenagers. I have a teenage daughter. I was once a teenager, and I think this is a very important topic. Stick around. Thank you for joining, my friend. You may not be a teenager watching this, but if you have a teenager or you know a teenager, I'd love for you to share this with them. Just a disclaimer, this video is not going to be about certain techniques or technical tips. This video is going to be strategies. It's going to be mindsets. It's going to be things that you need to understand. So it's going to be all talk, but it's going to be a lot of teaching. Sometimes they say the best defense is a good offense. So the offense with regards to this video that we're going to be talking about is proactive means. And this is not just the subject of self-defense. Maybe you're dealing with bullies or dealing with someone that's bullying you right now. I think you'll find this video insightful with regards to that as well. That being said, I want to give you a quick backdrop with regards to the things that shaped the way I think. I started martial arts training when I was in 9th grade. I obsessed over it throughout my middle school years. In fact, in middle school, I had quite an issue with a number of bullies, but I learned to deal with them. I learned how to confront. I learned how to confront bullies at that point in my life because it was either confront them or deal with the pressure that they were bringing every day to me, mentally, primarily. I got in 2 fights in middle school, and these guys were both bigger and stronger, but I went at them with everything that I had, and I never dealt with them again. It was in 8th grade that I started thinking about learning how to fight, really getting out and learning different martial arts. And it's amazing what it did to me mentally. And that brings me to my first point. Self-defense in the teen world is a lot different from when you get older and you're out moving about in your day-to-day life. Teenage life involves being around a lot of people that you know or that people that they know. It's a circle of people that you know by and large, and a lot of the physical altercations that happen between teenagers, simply put, are just fights. And not all of these teenagers are going into these fights voluntarily, and this is where it becomes a self-defense issue. If you are a teenager and you are concerned about being able to protect yourself, if you're put in a situation where you have no other option other than to fight back, my suggestion is that you need to become a student of various martial arts, or at least one good martial art. When I was in 9th grade, I joined a karate academy. It was called Universal Karate Academy. But this academy also would teach various martial arts once you reached a certain level. Once you reached your green belt, you started moving into Muay Thai seminars. We also started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and we did Kali, which is where I got introduced to some of the weapons techniques that I've learned. We would also break off and do clinics on boxing and wrestling. Long story short, I got introduced to a lot of different styles. That's why I think mixed martial arts is where it's at. I know a lot of people say, no, they need to learn a self-defense style of fighting, some traditional martial art. Here's the thing. You can learn mixed martial arts and get the versatility that comes with it. You can also, fight dirty on the street just like everybody else does. You can learn a lot of the same techniques, but I really feel like that a good mixed martial foundation is very important. It's very important to learn how to strike, to wrestle, to grapple, and even to handle weapons if that comes up. Something as simple as learning to box. If there's a boxing gym around, all of these things are going to build toughness in here in the heart. It's going to build toughness in the mind. Otherwise, you're just going to have to be a creature of instinct when it comes to fighting. I think it's important to get some structure. So if you're concerned about self-defense, it's time to do your research and get into a well-balanced training program. Young people who are training in various martial arts are a lot less likely to get in fights anyway, because a lot of young people that are out here fighting, deep down, what they want to do is test themselves. They haven't tested themselves anywhere else. They've got a lot of steam pent up. Going somewhere in training allows you to get a lot of things out of your system, and it's you versus you in that environment. And you come out of those training scenarios not feeling the need to fight everybody that looks at you wrong. Because when you train in a fighting art, whether it's boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or any other kind, you're getting a chance to spar with people all the time, and that does a lot for you. The second strategy I want to talk about is the people that you're hanging around, because if you're hanging around the wrong people, you could be put in a situation you don't want to be in. I've always said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I know what it's like to be a teenager and to want to be out on the scene. I'm not telling you got to sit at home and do nothing. You can go most places everybody else is going, whether it's here, there, football games, whatever. But it's who you go with. If you're going with people who are constantly getting into mischief and causing trouble, they can easily loop you into that. Next thing you know, you've got somebody provoking you to violence. I know what it's like to run around with guys that are always talking about fighting this person, fighting that person. Stay away from that stuff. A lot of young people just don't think about the implications of violence. It's a game to them, an opportunity to have bragging rights. Just get away from it. Idle time is the devil's playground. I see so many young men standing around on the streets doing nothing productive, hanging around with a bunch of guys. Next thing you know, they're having to throw hands with somebody over something stupid that was said. A lot of these guys are hanging around doing nothing. So be careful running around with people that don't have anything going on, because next thing you know, you won't have anything going on, and it always ends up going to a negative place. Let's move on to our third point and talk about respect. It may seem like common sense, but it's not very common in our culture, and that is giving people respect, being the kind of person who shows other people respect. Don't take this the wrong way, but a lot of times young people have not learned the value of respect, and they disrespect others very easily. I was young once, I remember, and I can say that from experience. I have children of my own, and I have mentored a lot of other young people, including training them in martial arts. A lot of young people just aren't aware of the implications of disrespect, and a lot of encounters that they get into oftentimes leads to these small moments where they had the opportunity to respect someone, but they were disrespectful in some way or another, and that led to them being in a situation. As I mentioned, I started martial arts in 9th grade. I went through 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, did not get in one fight with anybody during that time other than the people I was training and sparring hard with, because it's not that hard to show respect. But I didn't need to flex. I was getting all of my tension out in the gym. Respect goes a long way. Even if people aren't being that respectful, you can take the high ground. Number 4, don't be afraid to tell somebody what's going on. If somebody's got it out for you and you're dealing with just constant harassment and they're trying to set you up, listen, you're a young person. You're not an adult yet, and you're not supposed to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders just yet. You need to let somebody know. You need to get some people involved, because here's the thing. If you get into a clash with this person, you don't know what it's going to lead to. You don't know how it's going to turn out. Trust me, bragging rights are not worth it. Being able to say that you smash somebody is not worth it, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and I think you value your time and your freedom and your physical well-being a lot more. I know you don't want to be a punk. You don't want to be a snitch. I get that, but there are tactful ways to do this. A lot of times, if you'll let certain individuals know about what's going on, adults can get involved in ways that people don't even realize, and a lot of times they can give you the guidance you need to get you out of that situation. It's not always about run and tell and then the person is dealt with, but you need to let somebody know if you're running into a situation consistently. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a martial arts coach, maybe it's a teacher. It could be anyone. If I had a son and somebody was messing with him every day, I hope he'd come home and talk to me and say, Dad, I'm in a situation. I might have to fight this guy. He keeps messing with me. It's not always about tattletelling. Sometimes it's just about letting somebody know, because when the fight happens, I'll know the deal. A lot of young people don't know what to do when they're being pressured by a bully or someone trying to get at them, because they're afraid they're going to get in trouble. So young person, don't be afraid to let somebody know what's going on. That way, if you do have to defend yourself, you were proactive in that situation. Which leads to my last and final point. If you have to defend yourself, understand that they pushed you into that, and I want you to be fully committed to surviving that situation best you can. By this point in time, if you follow everything I said, you've been training, you've been preparing physically, you've been hanging with the right people, you've been showing respect to others, doing the best you can, at least to do so. You've notified people of some things that are going on, and now they've left you no other option but to defend yourself. Martial arts styles like jiu-jitsu give somebody who's got a big time size disadvantage the ability to thrive in that environment. People say jiu-jitsu is not good for the streets. I think that's all about context. I think there is absolutely a time where jiu-jitsu is good in the streets, especially if it is a one-on-one battle, which often happens in teenage life. In my time of wrestling and rolling with people in jiu-jitsu, I was able to tap out a lot of guys that were much bigger than me. And even if you have a little bit of boxing skill, it puts you so much further than so many of these guys out here. I watch a lot of street fight footage, and so many of these dudes just don't know how to box. They're just swinging wild, just taking wild random swings. And a lot of people out here that are getting in fights oftentimes have not trained. That being said, though, that doesn't mean they're not dangerous. Sometimes an untrained fighter is the most dangerous person because they're so committed. And that's why I said, if you have to defend yourself, you have to be just as committed as this person on the street. If I fight you, it's because you've given me no other choice. And if you put me in that situation, I'm coming at you with everything inside of me. And that's the mindset that you have to have. You can't enter that situation scared, worrying about getting in trouble. You have to think about you in those situations, and you have to be committed to your self-defense. Life as a teenager is not easy. Dealing with the people that you're growing up with and growing up around is not easy, but I'm hoping that this video has given you some strategies wherewith to carry yourself and hopefully stay out of these situations. I also want to say this. Defending yourself is not always physical. Sometimes it's just being firm, direct, and straightforward. A lot of times young people are so busy trying to be liked by everybody else that they don't want to upset anyone, even people that are coming after you. Just remember something. If you live by the approval of other people, you will die by their criticism. So there's no sense in living for the approval of other people. The way people engage you and treat you is either right or wrong, and you don't have to put up with it. But it doesn't have to always be physical. Sometimes if we learn how to just be straight up with people and stand our ground, a lot of times they'll back down. Just be direct and tell them like it is. I want you to write this down, and that is, the things in your life you're not willing to confront may end up controlling you. I'll never forget being in 10th grade, and this kid behind me was just flicking my ear. He was one of those kids always getting into fights, always getting into trouble, and I was like, here we go, he's messing with me now. But one day I just had enough. I just turned around, I looked him in the eye, I said, cut it out. He was like, all right, man, all right, chill. That's exactly what he said. Had he not willing to cut it out, I may have had to go to other means, but he stopped because I was willing to confront him. So many kids are afraid to just call something out. You don't have to go on and on, just call it out, let your words be few, and you'll be surprised sometimes how it turns out. People will respect you more if you're not a doormat anyway. I'll just say this though, learning how to communicate with your words is just as, if not more important than learning how to communicate with violence. I don't have to say everything there is to say in a video, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Are you dealing with certain things right now that you need direction with? Is there something I may have missed in this video? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I don't want to come as the expert, but I am here to help, and I'd love to hear from you. Take care.